Welcome to Beyond Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Petrellis, and we are super excited for today's guest. We've had our athlete series both collegiately and high school, and every guest that comes on is just another incredible story, another good athlete, and just something inspiring and interesting. And I think today's guest kind of hits upon all of that. I got to cover this kid. I've actually covered him the last 2 years with Arlington football, but also a big time wrestler as well at Arlington High School. We're going to be talking about that. We've been covering wrestling this winter, and it is becoming a quick favorite of ours of covering. So it's great to have another wrestler on here. But goes to Arlington High School, super sophomore, um, tall, large kid, just solid kid, man. And we'll talk more about that. But from Arlington High School, Brady, and I wrote his last name down here syllabically here, Bekkenhuis. Welcome to
Yeah,
the podcast, buddy.
thank you for having me.
Yeah, so tell our audience here, tell them your size and frame because I've covered you guys in the offensive line. I put on Instagram media like, oh, this is the biggest offensive line in the state.
Yeah. So I'm about 6'6". I have like an 84-inch wingspan, and during football, I'm walking around about 290, 295. And then for wrestling, I cut down to about 285.
Wow. So I mean, guys, you're hearing it here. I mean, and he's only a sophomore. He could literally pick me up like this behind me and just like walk me around. But I saw him again, as a freshman and then seeing him last year or this past year as a sophomore, like a huge offensive line, real big offensive line, good running back that they had, and a lot of success in running the football. And it starts with this guy right here, who's also going to be a captain as a junior in football. We'll talk about that. But first, what's interesting about you is you come into high school, you're a big kid, big frame. I'm sure the coaches were drooling. I know Coach O'Laughlin, your first head coach at Arlington High School, and he told me about you, and I saw you. I was like, man, this kid's only a freshman. And then I saw you last year. I go, oh my goodness, like you got even bigger. Uh, Talk about that mindset of coming into high school and just being like, yeah, I can contribute and help out like right away as a young kid, like, and I know I can.
So going into my freshman year, I knew that I would be a big part of this team, that I could really help on the line, especially. And I was fortunate enough to have like good leaders and role models that were older that really helped me like step into this role as a lineman. I had a rough start, I would say, at the beginning of the year because like I was still learning. Because like before we never really had a big playbook, and it was with Coach Deja, it was really hard to like understand his playbook.
Coach
So
Deja, oh
yeah,
my goodness, oh my goodness.
so
I love Coach Deja, he's one of my all-time faves, so it's funny to hear you say that.
yeah, so with his whole like style, like we were just always thirsty to learn and go after it, and that really helped with his like conditioning and his practices. Like that really made me like the sport of football, and like shows that like you really have to try if you want to be good at this.
Yeah, I mean, he's a great guy. Talk about a story of someone who worked hard and worked for everything, played at Merrimack, is a genius, is like being a doctor. I mean, he is just kind of everything and he's a hard worker. And but yeah, it's interesting to hear you say that because I think, yeah, at a young age when you come in, looking the part is one thing, mentality and the mental toughness and aspect of it's a whole nother thing because you are competing against 18-year-old, 17, 18-year-old kids as a young 14, 15-year-old kid yourself. So it is a little bit different, but obviously you held your own and you learned a lot. I mean, for you, I know you wrestle and we'll talk about that. But like in that off season, so you obviously you play varsity, you contribute, you're a big contributor. You know that you are going to be an anchor there now for a couple of years. Besides the weight room, are you doing lineman camps like 7-on-7 for the skills and drills guys? Did you do anything in the off season as far as development for yourself as a lineman?
So yeah, last year I was not very fortunate enough to get to any of those big lineman camps. Like I was invited to a few, but I had AAU baseball where I was like every weekend I was down somewhere new. And it was really hard for me to go because like I was in Old Orchard one weekend playing baseball to then being back here. It was like very hard to find time to go to these camps. But hopefully this year, coming forward with this summer, I'm gonna be a lot more of these good camps.
Yeah, and I think that the most important thing is what you said is that you are still being competitive, right? Like I look at like multiple sport athletes and I think like, man, these kids just have an edge because your mind is just like constantly thinking and developing, whether it's like quick reaction things or leadership or you like developing your game yourself. Like, you come in, you step in as like a young kid, you doing that, like that it shows a lot about, like, who you are as well, and I think that that's something that, really stands out, and you don't see it really often, but you're still being competitive, and I think that that's the most important thing, so, yeah, you'll see when you get to those things. I'm just curious because I watch your footwork. I mean, I obviously in filming your guys' game, like, as a football coach, like, yeah, I pay attention to you a little bit just because I was interested to see how you moved off the line, you're pushing stuff, and, yeah, you have, like, great technique, and, yeah, so I'd love to see you kinda competing against some of these other kids in the state or in the area of New England because I think you're up there. I know as a sophomore, going into your sophomore year, maybe what was different from you going into year 2, knowing that you kinda had a season under your belt, and as a sophomore, you're gonna ask to be a leader, even amongst maybe your older peers a little bit.
Yeah, especially as like being a younger team. Like we were a junior heavy class where we had a bunch of like almost our whole line was sophomores and juniors.
Yeah.
But knowing like going into this year that like I had a better understanding of playbooks and like understanding like your job and responsibilities, that really, really helps, succeed on the field, especially when you don't have to like worry about what you have to do. But like because like when you know what you're doing, everything's so much easier and it just flows way better.
Yeah, yeah. And obviously you had a new coach too. So year 2 going to a new coach, maybe a new system a little bit. I mean, your coach is like all world Arlington, right? It was an all sport athlete and everything. But specifically football. I mean, I remember coaching against him and if he wasn't worried about him playing quarterback, it was playing running back. And if it wasn't that, it was playing receiver. And so it's kind of great to have a leader like him, someone who was a great athlete in Arlington to make a name for yourself. I mean, talk about your head coach a little bit now. I got to work with you. I think he's a great guy. I think he's very smart coach, very calm and patient on the sideline. Like, shows a lot of maturity there, I think. But talk about your head coach a little bit and just like what you maybe learned year 2 as a football player under him.
Yeah, with Coach Roach coming in at first, we didn't really know what to expect from him because like we'd see him in the weight room around. He's a very calm and like collective guy. He was like really like easygoing about stuff. And once we started to see like who he really was and like how much he truly cared about us being successful, like it really made us want to win more and like actually show up and give more effort. And especially with who he brought in, he brought in his people he played with, people he knows and who he trusts. And it makes like forms a good bond with us. It really is. Like makes everything a lot easier.
Yeah. You guys are competitive and you guys put when I covered you guys played a really good Winchester team in my opinion. You guys played them pretty tough throughout the entire game, all the way till the end. That was something I noticed, like especially if teams if they're down late, like how they battle and with like 6, 7 minutes left in the game. You guys literally battle down to the wire. So I think there's a bright future for you guys for sure. Um and then for you, like we'll go back into like like college stuff in a little bit, but I want to jump into the wrestling stuff now. Did you play football growing up as a young kid, or is it something you just picked up playing in high school?
So in Arlington, it's like really hard because like the Pop Warner program kind of died out. Like my
Yeah.
brother who graduated out during the COVID year, like his class was like the last true class to have like a Pop Warner team. So I started playing football in eighth grade, and I was a quarterback actually. And
Well, okay.
yeah, I was a quarterback because with baseball it really helped. Like
Yeah.
I could throw the little ball like probably 60 yards, no problem. And then coming in my freshman year with Deja, like you were saying, he like knew like the second I stepped there, he was like, "You do not belong at quarterback." He was like, "You are a lineman," and like that really helped because like if I tried to play QB last year, I would have no idea what I was doing on the line this year, and I'm glad that I did that.
I mean, imagine like I mean, in the sense of like a 6'6" high school quarterback. I mean, that's like ideal, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, obviously good choice because here you are now, and I'm sure you're getting all sorts of looks. But what about wrestling? Now, is wrestling something you've done as a kid growing up, or did you just kind of pick up in high school?
So Leading up to high school, I actually played basketball in the winter with the Arlington teams all throughout, and ever since I want to say about seventh grade, Coach Cummings, awesome coach. He's been at high school for probably 30 years coaching. Just a great overall guy. Like would like tell me I should like come by and like stop by and like try out this wrestling thing. So I was like, knowing that like my dad was saying that like wrestling will help with football, which it truly does, and like it will help translate onto the field. I took that chance and I ended up having a good freshman year, won a bunch of awards, and got named captain for my sophomore season.
Crazy. What was your record last year as a freshman?
I want to say I was probably like 30-8, right around
Okay.
that mark.
So, okay, 30 and 8 this year. So you won like a bazillion awards. So you win like awards for your teams type thing or like winning like tournament type things. Like what kind of awards we talking?
I was a league all star, and we have a thing with our team, the Ironman Award winner, which means like you were just never absent, you never missed a practice, you were there every day, every like, tournament, all stuff like that.
Is that how you, is that mentality of yours? Is that how you are kind of mentally with football and wrestling? Like you are there unless you are like on death's doorstep?
There's never a moment where I feel like I like want to miss something. Like I just, it's just not who I am. I've played 3 sports last year. I didn't miss a practice. Was never late. It's just not. I just don't like doing that. Doesn't feel right with me.
So you don't miss school pretty much at all.
No.
What do you academically? Like how do you do academically?
Um, I think my GPA last time I checked was about like a 3.5. Like I'm like a B
Right.
student that will sometimes have like an A minus here and there.
Okay, so great grades, great kid, great attitude, great everything. Okay, awesome. Back to wrestling here. Okay, so 30 and 8,
Yeah.
which is incredible, okay, as a freshman. Now you're 23 and 0.
Yeah.
Obviously working out, hitting the weight room, getting bigger, obviously for football, being in good shape coming in. Now you're 23 and 0. What's changed maybe from your freshman year to your sophomore year about your game? I mean, again, you just kind of picked it up. So it wasn't like you were this super polished wrestler coming in, but where have you kind of maybe made your gains year two with that?
I think a lot of it is confidence. Like last year, being like a new wrestler, I was like very unsure of what I was gonna do before the matches, and I was just like nervous. But now I just go out there and just I want to just wrestle. Like I just have fun with it, and it really helps, especially now that I stepped into a new role as a leader. It makes like it puts a lot more pressure on you for like failure because now like these kids are looking up to you, and it's just like that like gives a little bit extra like motivation to like succeed.
I mean, that's great. Jeez, man. Impressive, dude.
Thank
Impressive.
you.
Um, so 23 and 0, have you won any big like tournaments or you have any big things that you've won?
Yeah, so I the first tournament we had the Wakefield tournament. I think it's the Lusitano Memorial Tournament.
Yep.
I took home first there, and then I want to say 2 weeks ago I took first at the Belmont tournament.
Okay, so you're winning tournaments big time too. So how many more potential matches do you have? You're 23 and 0, like potential matches as far as maybe your regular season schedule goes.
I think we have about 5, 6 more matches I could possibly get with the regular season before we head into like the sectionals in the states. Um, we have Woburn this Wednesday in Woburn, and then we face Newton North and Newton South at Newton South Friday.
All right. I mean, dude, you're 6'6", 285. So you come out, you are a presence. I mean, are you wrestling guys as big as you are? I mean, you have to be bigger than most opponents, right?
So I would definitely say I'm a lot taller than most of my opponents, but like when we were at the Wakefield or Belmont, no, yeah, Wakefield tournament. When I got to the finals, I was wrestling this kid from Athol, who was previously a state placer the year before.
Mhm.
He was a big kid. He was probably I want to say 6'4", probably 285 exactly. He's a
Yeah.
pretty big kid. And then at the Belmont tournament, I wrestled in the finals. This big stocky kid from East Providence, and I ended up pinning the kid in the Wakefield tournament in like about 30 seconds in the first period, and then I won by decision 7-0 to the East Providence kid in the Belmont tournament.
Wow. Do you ever hear of, I mean, I follow him as of recently just covering wrestling, the Schwartz Report. He's a guy on Instagram, he
Yeah.
keeps wrestling or whatever.
Mhm.
Man, you should I gotta reach out to him about you. I mean, I'm sure he knows about you. He guy seems he's pretty polished in what he does, but yeah, dude. I mean, it's so impressive to me. So, what's the big goals here? So, regular season ends. Then what does, like, I guess, the postseason look like for you as far as, like, what continues for you? You're undefeated, obviously, you keep going.
I just hopefully for sectionals, I can win sectionals because I think that's like a good start, especially as a sophomore to win sectionals. That's a pretty big thing. Like last year we had a freshman Cedric Daniel who took home sectionals as a freshman. He's like I think he's the youngest sectional champ AHS has ever had. So it's pretty impressive stuff. And hopefully this year I can take it home and hopefully go far at states. I want to make it to all states this year.
Now, what's amazing is obviously just the fact that you just picked this up and you're becoming better and better. I mean, you obviously your record is what it was in as a freshman, which was phenomenal. But here you are now really kind of winning and not losing here. Mentality wise for you, like how are you coming up to a match? Like, I covered a wrestling event, I see kids kind of the way they warm up, like, Shawshank Tech is crazy how they warm up and the lights
Yeah.
flip, music, it's awesome. I mean, how are you as far as getting up for, like, a big match or getting up for meet? I mean, mentality-wise, you listen to music, you be quiet, you by yourself, like, how are you?
I I'm not a big music guy because like I don't like how like there's no music played when you're out on the mat. So I just like kind of just like talk to myself and just like stretch around my coaches. And then like right before my match, I go out and just I start like jogging in place. We do sprints before our matches, stuff like that, just to keep our like blood going because you never want to step out on a mat unless you have like a little bit of a sweat going.
Do you are you the type of kid who, like, sets goals for yourself? Like, do you have, like you just sound so interesting in the sense that you seem like you kinda know what you want and exactly how you do it, like, do you have, like, goals of, like, what you wanna be or what you wanna do or a certain time you wanna get something done? Like, are you that type of person in general?
Yeah. So like I don't like to push stuff off or like procrastinate. So like I really like just to get stuff done. So, like, before school, like, with wrestling, because like, I knew with, wrestling, I was gonna be missing a lot of the weight room stuff, so I was, like, waking up before school, going to the gym down, the road, stuff like
Time you
that,
go
like,
to the
those
gym?
little
What time you go to the gym?
I was waking up, I wanna say last week I went Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I woke up at, like, 6, 5:30 around then to go to the gym.
Okay. And then you put, like, an hour workout in, get ready at the gym, shoot to school.
Yep.
And then what I mean, obviously, I know football is like late practices. What does wrestling look like as far as practice go? Because I'm sure it's not like you have like a wrestling room, right? So you got to share the gym and certain times. So how does that look?
So, our last period ends at about 3 o'clock. So after that, we have to shoot down to the gym and get the mats rolled out. Coach will come around 3:10 from the middle school to mop down the mats, and then we start stretching around 3:25 until about 5ish, 5:15. We've been ending around lately.
Okay. And then you going home and obviously putting the academic rigor in. You've already been up for 12 plus hours at that point. That's interesting, man. That's interesting for you. Um, obviously, I mean, and I don't know how much you can talk about this or whatever, but collegiately, I mean, playing football, you were quarterback, you went to a lineman, and then here you are just picking up wrestling. I mean, you must be getting looks here at this point of interest or maybe schools that you're just personally interested in and hoping that maybe you go there. How is that process as a young sophomore looking for you right now?
Yeah, it's been going good lately. Nothing for wrestling because I just like I'm not really interested in it. Like I don't promote my wrestling as much as I do with football
Okay.
because I'm only doing wrestling to benefit football.
Yeah,
And no, yeah, it's going good. I've talked to the couple big coaches around here. Been went down like watching play games, like game day invites, stuff like that. And yeah, my coaches are really good with connections and they know guys. Like they're very well like getting me into them.
that's great. Yeah, I saw, I think on your Instagram or Twitter or one of them, you kind of visiting some schools a little bit or looking at places, whatever, which was kind of cool. Um, I mean, you kind of said it for you. Do a lot of football players in your team wrestle?
Yeah, I want to say we probably have about 10 to 15 kids on the football team that wrestle. That
That's
they've been there. They've been wrestling longer than me because they're juniors mostly, and they started their freshman year. But yeah, we have a good amount of kids who do both.
I asked that because, when I had Shawsheen Tech on, when I had covered their football team, we had them on the podcast,
Yeah.
they said, like, half their team wrestles, and I asked their coach, I said, "Are these guys, like, extremely good tacklers?" And he goes, "Oh, our wrestlers are our best tacklers." Would you say that translates, like, what I just said there for your kids, like, defensively, like, some of your best tackles in the team?
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
for we don't we have like a lot of younger guys who are starting. Like one of our linebackers, Dylan McGann, Ori Forrest, both great linebackers, young kids, sophomores. They both wrestled last year, and it like really it does translate with like practicing your singles, your doubles, like that stuff translate to tackling. Like I learned how to tackle from wrestling.
Yeah. I believe it because your body's in all sorts of positions, you're shooting, like, you're trying to get low on people, like, yeah, I mean, twisting yeah, I mean, I could when I was watching the meet, I was just like, "Oh my god, I could see this kid being such a good tackler," like, and it's just so interesting to hear that, and, I went to, Arlington Catholic, we didn't have wrestling, but I would have loved to wrestle, like, I would have loved to done that in the winter, and I think that that is, like you said, it's a great sport if it's just for conditioning for another sport, but it is developing your game in that other sport as well, and tackling and getting low on people and body technique is a big part of that, and you get that from wrestling, I'm sure, so that's great. Um, Now we talk about you as an athlete and who you are and working out and waking up early, but who are you away from sports a little bit? Like, what are some of your interests? Like, what do you do outside of sports? Like, interests, favorite movies, type of music, anything, just who you are a little bit outside of sports.
Yeah, outside of sports, like especially around the summer and the spring, I love to fish. I love going fishing with my cousins. Down at the Spy Pond, the Mystics, right around Arlington. And
Yeah.
I like hanging out with my friends. I love going to like movies and like stuff like that, going out and get food with each other. It's fun.
That's great. So like an everyday young kid, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
and I think that's so important because sometimes we get so wrapped up in just like looking at kids as, oh, they're athletes or they're a big time athlete or they're whatever. Like sometimes you just forget they just like everything else and that you do and they're just kids and want to have fun too. So it's always great to get that like personality piece out for you. So what does the summer look like for you, like typically now? Because obviously it's your off season, football's getting closer. But as far as like weight room goes, like do you work out with the team a lot? Do you work out by yourself? Do you have like a train? I mean, how does like that gonna start looking for you or looking for you this off season?
Yeah. So last year we would have practices Monday through Thursday, like team lifts, like just stuff like that. And then we'd have the Thursday sevens with like Malden, Somerville, stuff like that. But hopefully this spring and summer I go maybe get a conditioning coach, like a strength conditioning coach. I've been looking at a few places to go to. But yeah, as of now, just like finishing up this wrestling season, hopefully I'll be done by maybe late March or late February, I meant to start going to our workouts. We're gonna have team lifts Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I'll probably go on my own Tuesday, Thursday.
What do you like bench and squat or deadlift right now? Or are you kind of just really developing that as far as learning how
Um,
to do that stuff?
as of right now, I'm still kind of developing my like weight room strength
Yep.
because like I think the thing that the college coaches see that like I haven't yet developed the weight room strength, but like I have this strength already on this field that like once that comes, it'll be it'll be really what good for me.
I mean, that's what's great, and I mean, I was just gonna say, like, what you mentioned getting a strength and conditioning person, like, that would probably be a great start for you, but, like, wherever you go to school, like, you're good footwork, good technique, smart, like, they will get you bulkier, they will get you bigger and stronger, like, that's what they're good at, that's, like, what they do, so, yeah, develop that stuff because, yeah, that will all fall into place for you, that stuff will all fall into place for you. Um as far as, as far as football goes for you, like, going into this fall like, coming season, like, what's the squad looking like here a little bit? I know, obviously, just from covering you guys, I know you lose your back, Hayden, and a few other key positions, but you also mentioned that you're pretty young, and there was a lot of sophomores, a
Yeah.
lot of freshmen that were contributed to varsity, so what is the season looking like for you guys as far as next year goes?
Yeah. One thing that our coaches are really gonna preach this summer and with all these workouts we're gonna have is just like being grit and just having a lot of toughness and like everything you do is all mental. Like one thing our coach would say was like in wrestling as well, it's like you're never tired. Like you always have more to give. And especially with this young squad, we just have to be really hungry and just want to go out there and win every rep.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's nice about, like, playing a young team. I mean, there's so many years that I've coached that we've started a lot of young guys and, game 4, game 5, game 6, we're starting to see, like, things click a little bit and you're like, "Oh, this is gonna get faster, we're gonna get better, like, this is gonna continue into next year," like so, yeah, I mean, it kinda got that feel with you guys playing Winchester. I thought Winchester was a very good football team, and I thought that you guys played them physically tough. You needed to get things done, at times you did, and, that's a sign of a football team that fights. So it's great to hear going into next season is, a squad that you're excited about and that we should all be excited about. Um, I'll ask you this because I think this stuff's kind of funny, but for you, but like sports movie, right? Like I have, if someone asks me a sports movie that all time for me, it's like Rudy. Like I'm like, oh, Rudy, it gets me every time. I know exactly when this is going to happen. And I still get teary eyed when it does. I mean, is there a sports movie for you that either gets you like jacked up that you like would watch before a big game, or just like if someone says, hey, what's that sports movie you want to put on the night before a big game?
um, I'm more of like a humor guy. Like I like to like laugh when I watch movies. So like
Okay.
sometimes like not even like before a game, just like in general, like I put on like the longest yard and just watch movies like that. Like I just love having a good like sense of humor and laughing while I watch something.
And is that your calming presence as far as, like, game day goes for you? Like, are you like that in wrestling as well? Are you kinda just loose and relaxed and
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't like to get jacked up over something, I like to like stay calm and then like when the time comes to like just give it everything I have.
Yeah, I think it's so funny because like you go into a locker room and that's you. I mean, you see some kids who are just like relaxed, like, hey, how's it going? And then some kids who are just like locked in, like some kids have headphones on and like it's just funny to see kind of the way people just get themselves mentally in a position to get ready to kind of all work together and do the same thing. And one really cool thing that I kind of want to shout you out about, and also just like the student sections of the games that I've gone to in Arlington this year, whether it was football, and even when we covered boys basketball, it was a great crowd there. Um, but you were like when we were talking, you were like, "Oh, check out the hockey team. Like they got a great hockey team too. A lot of studs there, and you're like going on the route for them." Like Arlington has some of the best crowds, I think. Football, the crowd was great. Basketball, the crowd was great. Even softball, like a lot of energy. Like, is that a big deal? Like, you guys pride yourself in a good student base. You go and support a lot of other teams, being, hoping that you get that in return.
Yeah, I mean like going to like the hockey games like you said in the winter, like those are just fun to watch. Like seeing all your friends go out there and playing with each other and playing together. It's like just fun to watch. I mean, going to watch the basketball games, like you see these kids all day in school, like it like makes everything easier. Like you just form better friendships by doing that. And it's fun.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the hockey team's very good. I mean, in general, so it's always good to, especially when the team's really good and they play great competition. And the Middlesex League that you guys play in, is there a team in the Middlesex League that when they're just on the schedule, you just are like kind of just a little bit more juiced up for it, or you're just kind of like standing up a little taller for, knowing that like, yeah, I want this one.
Yeah, for football especially, we've had a rough couple of years with Winchester. That was always a team we wanted to like just go out there and just have a good bite a fight with and just give them everything we had. We've been on the rougher end the past couple of years with them, but hopefully going forward, we can change that and start to rack up a couple wins against them.
No, it's so interesting you said that because even covering that game, like talking to your coach, like he kind of really had that circled on the schedule. I feel like your captain, the seniors that were on there, they were just like, yeah, this game means a lot. Like people have known about our friends have made sure that they had this schedule to be there to support us. Like, what is it about Winchester? Is it just a heated rivalry in general, or is that kind of who your guys' big rivals been?
I think our big rivals of recent years, the past 3 years, has been Waltham on Thanksgiving because like we've had a lot of like close encounters where like they have almost had their players ejected. We've had a couple of our guys say stuff probably that shouldn't have been exchanged.
Yeah.
But Waltham's always a team we want to play on Thanksgiving. But with Winchester, it's just like, we just like don't like each other and we just want to go out there and just like try to kill you almost every play. And it's like we play them with like a different type of level energy that we do with any other team.
Yeah, and I think, obviously, yeah, right, like, you gotta have that same mentality for everybody that you play, but there is always, like, when coaching Arlington Catholic, it was when Austin Prep was on that schedule, it was just like prep was a little different that week. The coach's attitude was a little bit different that week. The players' attitude was a little bit different that week. So, obviously the Middlesex League is up there as some of the best leagues in the state in any sport, boy or girl. And there's always great competition so I can see that. I can see, it being competitive, especially in the league. And you guys are really like town over from each other. I mean, driving to each other's high schools is like a 10-minute drive, if that to get there. So it's a local, tough, good rivalry with good football teams. I thought they were great, and I thought you guys were good. I think these two good football teams playing each other. Um, for you now, like you're a young kid, you're obviously halfway through your sophomore year. We talked at the top of this that you came in and contributed, right away. You had that mentality of, hey, listen, I'm here and I'm here to compete. What's your advice to young athletes out there, young kids, 8th graders, maybe even freshmen in high school right now, as far as being like, yeah, if you think you deserve to be out there and you think you deserve to you can contribute, like, then you gotta do X, Y, and Z. What's your advice for that?
Yeah, I would say one big thing that like will stick out to coaches and specific and players is your attendance, like showing up every day, working out, putting up good numbers in the weight room. Like we were doing tests all throughout the year in the summer with our lifts, like who had the best bench, the best squat, the best clean. And we had a bunch of younger guys like freshmen, sophomores leading those lifts. And like that sticks out to these coaches. And like when they see that you're going out there and you're giving every rep and like every reps you're giving your hardest and like the playbook better than someone who's older, no spots are gifted or given to anyone, no matter how old you are. And I think that's a big staple with this program that we have going forward.
I mean, that's great advice. I think that especially at the end there, like, I think what's so important is that you're seeing it more in high school. Like I'm seeing in most sports that we cover, I would be more surprised if there wasn't a freshman that was starting, whether it's soccer or football or basketball or hockey, like, it's happening so much more, or a sophomore. And I think that you put in the work. I mean, in all sports out there now, there's so many things you can do and so many leagues you can be in and so many things you can belong to in the summer, especially with football. That it's these kids can't come in and contribute because they've been doing it and they've been learning it at a much quicker rate than maybe even kids were than 10 years ago. So great advice. And I'll end this with a pretty funny question. I mean, wrestling wise, are you a big WWE, like, wrestling fan at all? Do you watch wrestling currently or watching it growing up?
Growing up, like, with my brother, we used to watch, like, the WrestleMania and, like, the Royal Rumble with the WWE. I was a huge John Cena fan. He liked, Bautista, I think his name was.
Yeah, Batista, yeah, Dave
Yeah, and
Batista.
they fought I wanna say they wrestled at WrestleMania where John Cena lost, I think it was to him,
Yep,
and
yep.
me and my brother used to, like we'd, like, joke about it and, like, give each other crap for it, and it was always fun being younger and doing that stuff.
So is it, like, at all when you're wrestling at all, do you ever, would Cena be an ideal, like, if you had an ideal wrestling entrance to come out for an entrance, would it be Cena's music coming out? Like, is that what you would do? What would be your ideal if you had, like, an ideal wrestling entrance to come out and wrestle someone?
Um, John Cena's entrance is pretty cool, I won't lie. Um, that would probably be pretty cool to have as, like, an entrance.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, absolutely, and I think what's so funny is because, I say that I'm a grown man, I love wrestling, I still watch it here and there, I think it's funny, I think it's entertaining, but it's funny to hear how many kids that wrestle in high school that don't watch it, that, like, I've talked to that, like, "No, I've never watched wrestling." Yeah, my parents used to, or, like, my dad, Hulk Hogan or whatever, like, the basic names, so I always find that funny because I think they would, like, almost, like, crisscross and, like, correlate much that you growing up watching that, and then in high school, you're like, "Oh, I get to, like, wrestle," in a not obviously in that way, but, like,
yeah.
just in a different way, so, but listen, you are an extremely impressive kid. I mean, we've been trying to get you on here for a little bit, and it's more of just me being kinda swamped, but I saw a video of you. I've seen reading things of you, and a lot of people who vouch for you of how great of a kid you are, how hardworking and focused you are. I can see that just talking to you on this podcast. You're mature, sophomore in high school. I mean, I feel like I'm talking to someone who's making a college decision soon. So you have plenty of time to grow, but you have the right mentality. You have the right like work ethic, and uh, dude, the ceiling for you is I can't even see it right now. So just keep doing what you're doing because it's working. Be that leader. Keep putting that time in the weight room. If you really go out and get a strength and conditioning coach, I think that would be great, like someone who teaches you this stuff because you are way stronger than you probably maybe show with some of these numbers if you feel like your numbers are not there yet. And sometimes it's just technique or a different way of approaching it, and you're 20, 30 pounds stronger, dude. So keep going with that. And anything that we can do to help you here, any awards that you win, tournaments that you're winning, especially in wrestling season now, please send it to us. We want to promote you. You're a great kid. Keep doing what you're doing. I think we have such a high school audience that follows us. You're the type of guest that we want to come on here. We want athletes to hear your stories like yours and the hard work you put in. So we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, guys, this week we have a pretty busy schedule. We have a couple podcasts coming up. We have Chelmsford High School coverage, which will be boys basketball next week, which we're really excited about. And we have a real fun special project that we're working on with the Medford boys hockey team and Medford girls hockey team for their senior nights. Something that we're putting together beyond that we think is something that will be memorable for seniors, and tie their whole academic and athletic careers together all at once. And I won't spoil and say more than that, but we got a real fun special project. But our guest here today, Brady, outstanding, great job. And guys, this is Anthony Pachellis from Beyond Podcast. Until next time.